The following is a sponsored episode.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today I'm joined by Claire Pelletreau, a Facebook and Instagram ads expert and conversion optimization expert. I'm so excited about our conversation. I was telling Claire before we hit record, I have a love-hate relationship with ads, but I've got to say ads really are the engine that scaled my business beyond my wildest imagination. And I really believe that once you reach a certain scale of business, ads are perhaps it's not correct to say it's a necessity 100% of the time, but it is certainly a common denominator in most businesses that reach any point of scale. So anyway, super excited to bring Claire on. A little bit more about her. Her mission is for you to actually see a return on the money that you're putting into the Zuckerberg machine without the expensive help of an outside ad consultant. Now, fortunately, Claire's ad trainings are famous on the internet for being ridiculously easy to understand and also implement. Claire also loves talking about money, profit, loss, the whole shebang, a girl after my own heart. On her podcast, the Get Paid podcast, she asks her guests how much they charge and how much they earn. Claire, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Ellen. I just have to thank you first off for saying such a bold statement about ads that nobody really wants to admit, even when they are, obsessed with the Zuckerberg machine because of how it has allowed them to grow. Nobody really wants to admit that. So thank you for putting it out there and being so clear and transparent off the jump.
Absolutely. Well, I think context is so important to the content that we share on this show. And while I would never stand in a place and say, all businesses must go through XYZ in order to be successful, there is, I think, no argument that at a certain point, you need more eyeballs in order to scale. And there's only a limited number of ways that you can do that, paid traffic being by far the number one, common denominator. Of course, there's other ways to get that level of eyeballs on you, but not everyone also has the skill set to do those other things. And so that's why I felt like our conversation today was so important. And I kind of want to actually kick us off, Claire, by helping our listeners get a better understanding of knowing when they're ready for ads. Because I think this is the actual first step that stops a lot of people from getting into ads, is they may have these incorrect misconceptions, right, about what is actually required of them, or maybe they start too early before they have a proven offer. So Claire, if you could just share a little bit more context there.
Yeah, for sure. So I say that you are ready for ads if you fall into either of these two camps. One, you have sold some stuff before. Sure, you could have like a signature offer that you launched a bunch of times, but I wouldn't wait until that. If you have launched something and you've gotten strangers on the internet to buy it, or even if it's not been a launch, it's just been like, a post you put out there, whatever. If you get the strangers on the internet to buy it, then you're onto something. And it is smart, at least at a low spend, to get started with ads sooner than later. The other camp is you maybe don't have that proven concept yet, but you have more money than time. So you would rather figure out that proven offer, the thing that people want to buy, what you have to say in order to get strangers on the internet to buy quickly, instead of trying to slowly grow an audience, see if they're going to, react, click on something that you've put out there, because it takes a long, long time to validate your copy, your price point when audience growth is slow. It is just the reality. Some people have more time than money, and that's totally fine. If you want to spend that time on growing things organically, that's okay. But there are other people who have the money and they would rather grow faster. So those two camps.
That's one of the best explanations and distinctions I've heard on this question, Claire, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think the piece that's often kind of buried in conversations around ads is that ad buying or media buying at its core really is buying data with speed, right? Like being able to, instead of manually getting something in front of 100 people and chronicling their actions, instead just being able to feed it out to thousands, engage those reactions quickly, and then kind of pivot and iterate from there. And so I think that was such a great way to kind of set the stage for an appropriate situation where someone might utilize ads. when someone's actually ready to start, what would you say is the lowest hanging fruit or the best ad to start with that's going to get them the most bang for their buck, especially if they are starting, let's say, with a smaller budget?
So you can really run this ad that I'm going to share with you. You can absolutely spend $5 a day on it. You really can. It does not have to be a big budget. And that ad is a list building ad. Any kind of ad that sends people to a page where you offer them something for free in exchange for their email address. Now, why that instead of like some kind of ad that just puts out a controversial take? I like those ads too, but I want to be able to get feedback from people by emailing them, by sharing podcast episodes with them, by literally sending a personalized email and saying, hey, I saw that you signed up for this thing. What did you think? I have this one specific question and I'm wondering if you could share your thoughts on it. That, especially when you're growing in the beginning, I don't think enough people talk individually to the people who are coming into their worlds. And you simply can't do that if the ad that you're running is like just to buy, I don't know, let's say a workshop replay. You either have buyers or you don't. And you can't get feedback from the people who don't buy. So all of those different ads have a place, but especially because, I can even see I might start overwhelming people talking about different kinds of ads, but the simplest one that's going to have a real ROI, even with a low spend, is just going to be add to an opt-in page that has, it could be a lead magnet. It could be a live webinar, anything where it's just an exchange of email address for value.
That follow-up piece, I think, it sounds so basic when you say it, but actually, even for myself, it kind of like gave me, a double take. I was like, you're so right. Like, when was the last time that I reached out about a specific entry into our world, like a specific resource download, and asked people, hey, what were your thoughts on this? Did any other questions emerge from, you implementing this? That is such a great takeaway. And I want to make sure our listeners implement, because Claire's right. Like, whether you got 5 people to opt in or 500 people to opt in, that's opportunity right there to really dig deep and do the ongoing market research. So I think that is absolutely brilliant. When you say list building ad, just for clarity, because anyone who's been on the back end of Meta Ads Manager, right, understands there's a lot of different objectives when you're going to set up an ad. For a list building ad campaign, do you generally recommend people go with the traffic objective, so optimizing for link clicks and landing pages, or directly for lead gen?
No,
as the
specifically in the Meta Ads Manager, it's called leads is your objective. Because
Perfect.
Here is what is wild about ads. They know exactly what you're doing on their platforms. They know if you're somebody who clicks, reads an article, and then closes the page. They know if you're somebody who clicks, I just bought an Apple Watch band from an ad, kind of sight unseen. I never heard of them before. They know that I'm a buyer from Instagram ads. So guess what? I get shown those types of ads.
Right.
If you choose the wrong objective, which again, I'll just say it again, it was leads. If you choose the traffic one, or even the sales one, because sure, essentially you want sales from this, but it's going to impact who your ads get shown to. That is now more important than the actual people who you choose to target in that section of the ads manager. The objective will do way more for your campaign getting that one thing right than choosing the quote unquote right audience.
Whoa. Okay. That's actually a big hot take, I think. And I am so glad you came here to say that, because I'm not an ads expert. And so that's really interesting for me to hear, especially over the last, 12 to 24 months, where Meta has really been pushing their Advantage Plus in terms of audiences. And it seems less and less important to detail and build out these, super well-researched audiences? Because like you said, they track and they understand behavior, and that plays a bigger role than interests or demographics and things of that nature. Speaking of though, what's your stance on Advantage Plus? Do you like to let Meta just kind of take the reins and run free and say, hey, you go find the people you think are going to respond best to this ad? Or do you still like to kind of have some control in terms of setting audience interests, audience settings, and whatnot?
I'm going to say something that I've never heard an ads person talk about. I think it is the best thing to have happened to Facebook ads, Instagram ads, is Advantage Plus. When I work with clients, like on a very high level, I get access to their accounts, and a lot of them come from agencies or a previous ad consultant. I'm in there. I can see how their campaigns have been set up, and it is the old way. So they relaunch with me with Advantage Plus, and their results, not just things like cost per lead, but ROI, the return on your investment, skyrocket.
Wow.
Because they have done an amazing job now of being able to find the right people. And so you're doing that now with a combination of your objective, like we talked about. That's the first thing they ask you. And then the last thing you have to do is your ad creative. The creative is the new targeting, 100%. So I am loving it. I would recommend that anyone who has tried ads in the past, regardless of the results, great or not, make sure you try them again, because the power of this algorithm is, it's just so good. I have not been so obsessed with my own tool, the skill I teach in a long time, because I'm seeing things that are possible now that 12 months ago were not possible. 6 months I was still struggling with, and now it's a whole new world.
That's so encouraging to hear. And I think especially for those who have tried ads in the past, like you said, and it wasn't successful, and they're afraid again to put that risk out there with their budget, their money, even their time, right? It's a lot of energy to set things up in the first place. I love that you're giving them this encouragement, like, hey, this is like a rebirth. This is a fresh era. So just to make sure I'm understanding you correctly, Claire, are you saying then that you don't add any audience interest or restrictions around the selection of the audience, and you truly just let Advantage Plus run on its own accord? Or is it kind of situational where you might step in and, further detail out specific audiences for Meta to target?
I no longer run campaigns that have different ad sets, and different ad sets was how you targeted different groups. But to answer like specifically your question, I will sometimes, especially if a client is, not super active, let's say on social, I'll just say, nope, no targeting, no nothing. I mean, ages, yes. Gender, if it's relevant, yes. Country, absolutely. But I'm not putting in any detailed targeting. If somebody has been doing steady Instagram content for 6 months or more, or they have a big email list of buyers, what we'll do is we'll add it as a suggestion. It is a source for the suggestion. But I know, and I think this is also where a lot of people get confused. It used to be email. If you gave Meta a source, the ads would only be shown to those people. So now people think that, oh, well, I want to get new people, so why would I give them my Instagram, like people who are engaged with me on Instagram? It's just a suggestion for them to start with. But especially if you're short on time, skip it. It's really, sometimes I'm like, why do I even bother with that? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that makes sense. And I'm thinking back to some of the ads I've recently run, like when it comes to lead gen or list building, like you're saying in it, and there is no geographical restriction to who could or can benefit from the resource. Exactly. I think like going with a wider net has actually lowered our costs. But, when we were selling tickets, like for our event in Oregon, then obviously we were a lot more restrictive with like who was seeing our ads and why, to make sure it was relevant. But that's really helpful to know. And you mentioned creative a moment ago, Claire, and I found that really interesting because I know creative too is a piece that a lot of people struggle with, both the actual visual, whether it's a photo carousel or video, as well as the actual copy. And of course, AI is involved now in the copy generation as well. And so The question I kind of want to ask, it's a little bit of a more like broader theoretical question, but something I've noticed in our community and just business owners in general is if they're used to selling their product or service to an audience that is familiar with them and their brand and already has that relationship, they tend to kind of skew towards messaging that is designed for those warm audiences, right? People who already have that trust with them. And then when they move to ads and they try to copy over that same language or that same creative, they really struggle because obviously the people being shown their ads are not people who have, like you said, when you bought the Apple Watch band, right? You had no idea who this company was. There's no prior trust or relationship there. And so sometimes it doesn't click or it doesn't translate with these new cold audiences. Do you have any advice for people who have found themselves in that situation as it relates to creative specifically?
I mean, the beauty of AI now, and this is one of the top ways that I use now, Claude specifically, but I did this with ChatGPT before I kind of switched over, is write yourself some ad copy, promoting your lead magnet,
Mhm.
and then paste it into your preferred chat thing and say, how would you change this for an ad that is being shown to people who have never heard of me before? What are the weakest points? One of my favorite questions for AI. What are the weakest points of this copy or of this sales page or, things like that? Because especially when you've been building organically, you have no like and trust up the wazoo, and then you do have to go to ads and it's very different. So that is the first thing I would say. The other thing is, an easy tip is do not mention your offer name.
Okay.
Not if it's for a webinar,
Right.
right? Like if you say the clients I work with in XYZ, I don't know what XYZ is. So tell me the clients who I help achieve XYZ or the clients I help who are struggling with ABC. Talk about that. Leave all mentions of your brand out of the ad because they don't care. Sorry, they don't care. They want to know, what can I get from this?
That makes a lot of sense. So really focus on desired outcome and or problems, urgent problems, rather than branded language. Am I understanding that correct?
Absolutely. Now, if you can make a claim like this is the newsletter that 75,000 stay-at-home moms open every week, yeah, talk about that. That's
Yeah.
social proof. But again, you wouldn't necessarily name the newsletter,
I see. That makes sense because your whole point is to get them into your ecosystem with that exchange of email or that opt-in. And then on the back end in your own world is where you can really kind of build that relationship with them and your brand or them and yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
And even if you're doing the creative as like a video, like
Mm-hmm.
Ellen, I wouldn't say get out from behind your branded mic. No.
Right.
But I would say try one without it. Just see. Like
Test.
you have, I mean, it's very, the colors, for example, right now that you're using, well, that are your brand colors, phenomenal.
Yeah. Thank you.
And what we would want to see is what if that like level of brandedness actually turns some people off just because they're like a little scared. Sometimes we see very branded people and we get intimidated by them, not people or businesses.
Totally.
I used to run ads for years for Jasmine Star, and, her ads performed like crazy. And I'm sure that if she had come out, with like, oh, here is my, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something Jasmine could do on social that might turn people off. But we were always trying different things. So a lot of people, this is a great tip. Do not use branded photos if you're trying the photo ad. They almost always underperform compared to anything else you try. It's wild.
I believe that, especially with the change in how people consume organic content, right? I think just the unpolished, real, natural, feel like I'm right there with you in the moment. I feel like that is really resonating right now with audiences. So it makes sense it would also translate to paid traffic or paid content. And so thank you for sharing those additional tips. We've kind of talked about, a lot of the things that have changed in the ad landscape. You've mentioned several tactical things that our listeners can already implement or improve on their ads. Is there anything else you feel is important to mention that has changed specifically about ads, in the last, let's say, 6 to 12 months, and that you see as something people really should implement going forward to be successful in ads in 2026 and beyond?
Yeah, this is about the ad, but it actually has everything to do with what comes after. The thing that people are signing up for, the emails you send later, your offers, your launches. Using your clients' words is torpedoing your results. And the reason for that is because every one of your competitors has learned that. They're already doing it. So what you're saying, like you might just even name your webinar in a certain way that's using client language, but it's not standing out. And so this is why we see a lot of people who are able to get leads, but they are not able to convert.
Interesting.
Or it takes years of know, like, and trust, which is always going to be true for a lot of the people who come in from ads. And I don't make that a problem. But I also know that there are people signing up who have a specific problem they want solved fast. So the most important thing is to really stand out and show how you're different. And a lot of times that's by niching down in your niche.
Okay. Could you give like an example
I would love
of what
to.
you mean by that? Yes. I'm like, that would help my brain grasp it a little bit more concretely.
So this concept really came up. I had a boot camp inside my ads program recently. We did 5 days of calls, and I swear this question just kind of kept coming up. There was somebody she helped with, I forget if it was nutrition or weight loss, but it was definitely in the health and wellness space. And she was telling me about like who she works with or who some of her clients are. And I was hearing all of the same language. But then she said the retiree who is working towards hiking to Everest Base Camp.
Okay.
And I was like, what if you did an entire webinar just for that niche within your niche? You don't even have to have them on your list because you're going to use ads, or you're going to use the language in your ad, in your opt-in page, in your webinar, because she could tie that whole topic and that whole niche into the pitch for her program seamlessly, because she just has those people in there anyway. So it's not like it was a program only for the retirees working towards, these big hiking goals. But when you can niche down like that, you're going to get people who feel seen even more, and you're just going to naturally be sending them emails, writing content, talking to them in a way that makes them feel like, oh, this is the place for me. One of my clients, this is maybe even a faster example, one of my clients who helps women in menopause lose weight, we just added one thing to her webinar title. It was lose X number of pounds, or probably not a number, but then we added without a GLP-1. So the people signing up were very different. That was her biggest objection. And she no longer got that objection.
Right.
Because she didn't have to convince them anymore. She was calling in those people specifically. So that was like not even niching down. That was niching down to a certain objection.
Right.
Almost. Does that make sense?
It does, actually, because that's actually something that in the past, when I had a coaching program, I actually had people really zone in on, like, what is the thing or the solution that your clients have tried before that didn't work? And therefore, if they believe that your solution has anything to do with that, they will automatically write you off, like before they've even heard, the rest of it. And so I love that you had your client call that out. And I'm like so in awe, actually, of your client that, created a webinar around something so niche. I mean, a retiree trying to summit to the base of Mount Everest. I mean, in my mind, I'm like, what is that? Like a couple hundred people a year, maybe, but it's probably more. I know nothing, obviously, about hiking, especially about Mount Everest and that whole culture around that. But in my mind, it just seems like, wow, there's so few people that would apply to. But I love hearing from you that was effective, because I think that's what some of our listeners need to be encouraged by is knowing it's okay if like the thing that you're trying to put out there seems like such a micro, like a micro community that would really resonate with this. Now, because of the power of AI and Advantage Plus that you've talked about in our episode today, the algorithm is able to find those people for you, even if you have no idea where you're going to reach that audience.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm constantly thinking, ooh, I should do a webinar just for people who used to be successful with ads, but then they, or 2020 when lots of people were, and they need to be brought back. So that would be very, very specific, but it takes a lot of courage to do that. A lot of people have asked when I bring this up, they say, but then won't I be leaving everyone else out? Leave them out for 2 months or 4 weeks. Leave them out. Because what if this is the path to that crazy profitable funnel? And if it's not, you try another one next month.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That's such a great reframe. Nothing is permanent. Everything is a test. And honestly, the only people, again, who are going to see that ad are that very niche group of people. So it's not even like the rest of your audience or the rest of your potential audience is even aware that you are, quote unquote, excluding them, right? Like they don't realize because they're not seeing the content to begin with. And so that's such a great point, Claire. I think my last question to wrap up our conversation today is, once people have found success with this one simple ad, right? This lead gen ad, you said they can start low, $5 a day. What's the next move? Like, is it to increase the budget, and if so, what does that look like? Like, are we increasing daily? Are we increasing weekly? By how much? Or do you recommend stacking another type of campaign on top of this first one as kind of their next move to continue with ads?
This is why it's such a simple ad. You just put more money behind it. You don't have to, with the setup, the right setup, you do not have to worry at all. And I would double your budget, or maybe even go higher. It depends on where you're at. If you're under 100 a day, you can go up to 100 if you want. Here's what everyone who does this, either doubling, like say you go from 20 to 40, or say you go from 40 to 100, here's what you need to know. The next day, your cost per lead will be crazy high. And you will panic and you will curse the day I was born. And
this happened to me before, by the way, so I'm laughing because the pain of the real experience.
Well, it is. It used to be this could happen. Now, this will absolutely happen. Be ready for it and know that your costs will come down. They will come down. I don't let my clients share their results or try to fix them or ask me, what do I do now, until their ads have been going for 7 days. And if they do a budget change, same rule. Because their question is gone by the time the 7 days are over. I recently launched like a brand new experiment, have not done it at all. It was going well. Actually, the first time it did not, and I panicked. Naturally, it's so normal, right? When you're spending money.
So human, yes.
Changed some things up, relaunched. It was going great. I went from 200 to 300 a day. Not a single sale the next day, not a one. And yeah, I just had to go, yep, this is part of it. And of course, the sales have come back. So it is a roller coaster when you're increasing budget, and it is absolutely worth it.
That is such great advice to end on. I actually really needed to hear that myself, Claire. So thank you.
Great.
Thank you for your wisdom. I'm so grateful to be able to talk to experts like you who have been in thousands of ad accounts other than your own. So you can really pull from a huge breadth of experience. For our listeners who are like, okay, Claire, you've got me fired up. I actually feel like I can do this. Like I can either come back to ads if it hadn't worked for me before, or I'm actually doing okay with ads, but I want to see if I can take this up to the next level. What are the ways that people can reach out to you, and what are the ways they can work with you?
Yeah, so I have two main offers. I have Absolute FB Ads, which it's that course where I mentioned we had the boot camp. We do that a couple times a year, and that's really self-study for ads. Here is a tip. If you sign up for my funnel, if you sign up for Sell Out Your Group program with one simple ad, you'll learn more about that ad, see it in action. We have a special offer for people who sign up for that. So if that's what you're thinking, like I want to just get $5 a day going or more, I want to DIY this, perfect. Start there. Save yourself a little money that you can put towards your ads. And then the other one for like this very hands-on, it's kind of like consulting. We are on your ad accounts. That's called Get Paid Marketing. And you can go to clairepells.com/get paid. And we'll probably have the wait list up. We do enroll that just a few times a year. And that is a $15,000 investment.
Amazing. And thank you, by the way, for the price transparency. I know
yeah.
our listeners really appreciate that. The one that you mentioned where if they go through your ad funnel, they're going to get a better deal on the back end for your next boot camp or for the self-study options. Is that link they should go to then clairepells.com/CEO?
Yep, that is the one.
Perfect. We're going to drop all of those links that Claire just mentioned below in the show notes. You'll also have the link to her podcast, Get Paid. Again, if you love our content and especially the financial transparency layer that is throughout all of our episodes, you're going to also really, really love Claire's podcast. It's such a great pairing with Cubicle to CEO. So definitely follow her show, add it to your weekly lineup. And then Claire's Instagram will be below as well. Claire, thank you so much again for joining us today and for this really insightful conversation. And thank you all for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next episode.